Welcome to another edition of Got Gameplay. This is the Swapper, not a brand new game, but then again, there isn't any brand new games until next week when, well, okay, that's not completely true. There are games coming out all the time on mobile and stuff like that, but we are Got Game. We focus on bigger, more expensive console titles, and we like to think that we offer a bit of a service, letting you know which ones you should get. So there's not going to be another big console title until next week when that expansion to Saints Row 4 comes out. Get Out of Hell. So we'll have that next week. But until then, here's a game that we never really got to last year, but I think it's actually worth your time. It's called The Swapper. It's a puzzle game, Christine.
I love puzzle games. Where
you clone and swap yourself between clones.
I like it.
I'm about to do that. There, I just swapped into another clone. And this game is kind of freaky to me. I mean, it has this atmosphere. You start off like launching out of the space station in a very fast way. There obviously was an emergency. Something bad happened, and you land on this planet, and you're trying to survive. But you learn about this swapping gun that makes clones of you and lets you like go between the clones, which leads to the question: who is the actual person? If I was to clone myself and get into another clone of me, is Bryan Calhoun the idea, Bryan Calhoun, or is Bryan Calhoun the bones and flesh actually Bryan Calhoun?
Both would be, and in the idea of cloning, the fact that you'd be essentially the exact same person.
Perhaps. I mean, these are questions that have troubled people for years. Cloning has actually been a huge issue for that reason. I'm not entirely sure I have the answer. I'm not entirely sure you have the answer, Christine.
I definitely know I don't have the answer.
I don't mean to be rude. I simply say this might be one that's a little bit above our pay grade. But
it's just my opinion on cloning.
And a valid opinion.
All right, so why do you have a cloning gun? What is... Oh, you fell.
Because a lot of the puzzles, they revolve around like areas you can't reach normally. Mm-hmm. You can jump, you can even do a double jump, but there are areas you can't reach. So a lot of the puzzles are about finding that place where you can actually put a clone of yourself, and either just using that clone to step on like a pressure plate or something like that. You'll see a lot of examples in this quick little bit of gameplay that we have here. And as you go through here, you pass by these objects which are giving you messages. But yeah, you are swapping yourself into these other clones of yourself, and then you can move on throughout the 2D puzzles that are in this game. And actually some of them are pretty inventive. There's one which I will get to in a second or two, which took me a little bit of time to figure out. And then as I was figuring out, I was kind of just wasting clones.
Oh, nice.
Which led to the entire reason, or the entire thought process about, am I really like destroying myself? Like, did I just kill myself? Was this murder? But we'll get to that in a second. Because the one thing I want to bring up is that I don't really like this control scheme that they have, which I feel like was definitely, I feel like the console version of this game was maybe the second thought to, say, a PC version. Not entirely sure about that, but that's just the way I feel like it is by the way it plays, whereas, and the way it plays is that there's a huge cursor. Well, it's not a huge cursor. You can see it on the screen. So it's a little dot. And that dot leads you. You're not really controlling the dude. You're more controlling the dot.
Oh, okay.
And the dot is leading the guy. So if you see me like walk backwards weirdly and then turn around, I'm still adjusting the dot as I move around. And the guy will always be staring at the dot. Wherever the dot is, you'll be looking at.
It sounds like something that could work well in like the Vita with the touch controls.
And the reason I bring up like a computer idea originally is because a mouse and keyboard would be really, really good with this, because you could move them around really quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas a controller, it's a little harder to move around. It's not impossible. It's just it feels a little clumsy is what I'm trying to say. As I try and swap into this guy. And like, here's an example of these puzzles where I had to create a couple myself to get there, and then you move every clone every clone moves in the exact same direction at the exact same time, which is why you have to swap. When you swap to one of the clones, you take over that clone and you become that guy.
So if you have like 15 clones there, you'd all move at the same time?
Yes.
That is kind of awesome.
It would be really good for like dance parties.
I was just thinking it would be like a clone dance party.
Like... Now I'm just thinking about a clone dance party. We're about to get to the part where I started wasting clones.
Okay.
And this is actually a puzzle, which I figure out towards the end. I hope I have the footage.
Is that on that screen? That's the map. Okay, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You definitely have a map, which, I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure how to read it yet. But it's showing the right information. So here I am. Ooh. Okay, clearly...
That's not the way to go.
No. Or is it? We'll figure that out in a second. But it's all I have.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else to go as I look around. And I get the idea, well, I'm allowed to clone people.
Let's just sacrifice all of the clones.
Send in the clones.
Make a pile of them and then land on the pile of dead clones.
Happy clones.
They're already here.
And then I get the idea, I wonder if I could clone myself and, like, transfer myself in midair.
Oh, so the impact wouldn't be, in theory, as bad, except that it would because you're still...
And here we start going. Like, it slows down.
Boom.
But I was too high. I didn't have enough... Like, the clone itself survived. I don't know if you saw, but the one clone that I cloned really close to the ground, he survived. But I wasn't able to transfer myself into him fast enough. So, there we go.
Hey!
And then the original dies. So did Brian Calhoun just die?
Wow, that's...
And his clone survived? Or is Brian Calhoun still alive?
That reminds me of a movie that I don't want to spoil, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, Hugh Jackman.
Well, these are the questions that Swapper actually brings up, or the Swapper, if you really want the full title, actually brings up. And if you want to know what the mystery of the Swapper is, you got to play it yourself. Luckily, right now, if you have PlayStation Plus, free to download, but $20 if you don't.
Nice.
And it seems to be a decent little side scroller that's worth the $20.
It looks fun. It looks like something I would buy.